Hi, Christian.
Hello, hello. Oh, hello, hello.
Hey, hey. How was your talk?
It was good. 15 minutes, or no, 10 minutes. Um, yeah, I think it was quite nice.
Cool, cool, cool.
And I can put the link somewhere. Must be already online.
Nice.
Here we go. Oh, no, not yet. But yeah, eventually. Hey, Bren.
No.
Is it your actual office, Brandon, or did you just match the lighting pretty nicely?
The lighting does match pretty nicely.
Because it's hard to tell.
Easier.
Ah, here we go. Even heavier. Yeah, okay, that's nice.
Way back when the pandemic first started, that was one of my things was let's find a good background that kind of blends in and works with the lighting. And one of the additional things I realized I need to do was actually blur it slightly.
Mm,
Because
mm.
if it's in perfect focus and I'm in perfect focus, it just kind of stands out a little bit too much.
Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, right. If you're blurred slightly, that makes sense. Yeah, it's a good illusion. And have good lighting of yourself, right? I think that's also, and maybe don't wear a green shirt now. Is it green?
I actually make a point before I click the video button to click the video settings and check the preview and wait for it to get it correct. Because there have been times where it just said the whole background is going to be there and my shirt is going to be the one thing that shows as the background.
Yeah, that spoils it.
I'm not a bookcase.
Yeah, I figured I have the Spanish wall. I think that's also okay-ish. And I have half, like, I think I have the same amount of badges somewhere. I just need to hang it. So, but yeah, that's maybe should take my wife's jacket off.
Mine are all hanging just slightly off screen.
Let's wait for Christian, and I guess we can start.
Here we go.
Okay, cool. Let me share my screen. Where can I do that?
Big green button in the middle.
Yeah, the funny thing is I don't have... okay, this big green one.
Everybody
was...
overlooks it because they're like looking at the off-white ones, and it's like just call it out the big green.
Okay, I hope you can see my screen right now. And we have two topics in the agenda. So first one is to finish use cases and talk about proposal deadline. So I guess this meeting is gonna be short because we don't have so many use cases in here. We can start from here.
I believe all three of these are from the spec maintainer from me.
And I believe those are valid when I read before the meeting. But let's go one by one. So the first one, let's read and let's talk about that. Yeah, it's completely valid to me. Any comments from anybody else? Since we
Yeah,
are going to,
that's seems like a good idea.
yeah,
Don't break
since
things
it's
is always a good goal.
so the second one.
Yeah, even better. Yeah.
Yeah, this one is I don't want every time NVIDIA comes out with a new card to someone have to push a PR up to OCI.
Yeah, exactly.
Certainly, yeah.
But we are talking mostly about the existing specs, right? You are not talking about if we introduce a new specification that is maintained. You are talking about general use cases, like
I
even if,
I would
sorry.
say we should probably even try to make it a objective of what we create, just because if you have to keep a list of every single possible hardware device out there,
Mhm.
that's an impossible task.
Yeah, that's impossible task. I agree with that. Just wanted to be very precise in here. Okay, so the third one
Yeah,
also,
also super nice. Yeah, like
yeah.
valid and good. Yeah, yeah,
Okay, so this is clear. Let's move to security administrator. So this is, for example, if we introduce some plugins, and if by any chance runtimes would agree to implement that we execute something from external parties, we don't want to change its behavior based on unsigned content. This is how I understand that.
Yeah, especially if you're going through like a mirror or proxy of some kind, that would seem to be a bad thing if someone could inject some kind of compatibility data that says, hey, you should be running this other thing.
Cool.
But do we
So,
expect
mhm.
that the plugins execute something like, or is it somehow a configuration thing that you run to configure your runtime? You run a tool that populates the matching compatibility spec on the host, and then you have it set, or do you expect that every time you run a container, there's a binary that is called?
Depends on the use case. Because if we are talking about the image selection, it's a matter of configuration. If you are talking about the host validation against the image specification, compatibility specification, then you might execute some plugins that will extract some host information to see if those are valid against the specification or not. So I imagine this covers my proposal, which is gonna be refreshed, by the way, very soon. Um, I assume we are going to develop some tool, very simple tool that will extract some information from the host. And it's
Yeah,
not gonna involve any container runtimes or anything like that. There's gonna be a dedicated tool that will give you information if container is valid against the host or not.
yeah, and maybe we can discuss it after we discuss it further here. But the at FOSDEM, Eduardo talked about NFD, like node feature discovery, and I was wondering how we can make use like make use of this, like talking about don't overlap significantly. I think,
Ex mhm. Excellent
yeah.
question.
Anyhow,
It's
yeah.
also in my proposal. We just
Perfect.
should incorporate the stuff that has been developed by NFD that we don't overlap with them.
Yeah,
So
and I think
yeah,
we can even reuse the tool, right? But anyhow, let's first finish this.
sounds good. So the third one. So I understand that this way that if I have a compatibility specification, I still can add some custom key values to the specification itself.
Yeah, I would expect there is like a section where everyone is free to do whatever he wants, right? So, I mean,
Yeah.
it's not under NVIDIA if you're not NVIDIA, but would think so.
Okay, sounds good to me. Anybody else any question regarding that or? Okay, let's move to the next one. Also valid to me, but I'm trying to find out about the use case that would allow that. I would that because
I can't come
yeah,
up with one because I feel like if you're doing signing of the image, the whole image is going to be signed. But maybe there's something out there.
okay, but yeah, it's totally valid. And the fifth one, so it's kind of out of the scope for us because there is a comment from Brandon that, or maybe it could be part of the working group that we can contribute, but additional functionality for listing.
Yeah, I guess at the end of the day, if it's not SBOM, but the image compatibility, we might want to create something human readable or non-human readable where you can also put this into a report. Or, but yeah, that's
Hmm.
maybe out of scope a little bit, but possible,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it should be possible, but I would say that some external functionality. I wouldn't put this into core functionality of the tool or for this group or so. But I think we can keep it anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, looks like we are through, and that's all from the use cases. And maybe we can quickly talk about this NFD stuff before we move to the next topic. Um,
Yeah, maybe let me elaborate on this a little bit. So Eduardo gave a talk on NFD, so node feature discovery, right? And he said that there are multiple containers, or the information is extracted via a container that is presented by or provided by the vendor, for instance. So Intel has one, AMD, NVIDIA seems like, and it will just in quotes spit out the information that we also need, like all the information about the GPU that NVIDIA seems or deems necessary or interesting. It's going to spit out as some format, I guess JSON or key value or whatever. And from what I understood, it's not limited to Kubernetes, right? It's just a container that's scheduled by default every 60 seconds to
mhm.
read the information and push it into NFD in Kubernetes. But it sounded to me that we can also use this for our purpose and
Yeah,
use the
definitely,
information. And then
definitely we can
we
use
don't
it.
need to write a gazillion new tools. We just use the container, run it, and off you go, right? Or Brandon, you might need know more about this than me for sure. So what do you think? Is that a good idea?
I probably don't know more than you, because I was aware that Kubernetes was doing stuff, but I didn't dig into any of the stuff that they were doing specifically. But it's kind of the reason that I've been separating the node selection from the image selection on the runtime. Because I feel like there are two different groups that are slightly orthogonal to each other from what they're doing.
So basically, this project, I mean, I think we could use, but only part of that because the first story is about discovering some stuff from the host, how it works, like CPU and so on, and we have to adjust output to our needs. I don't want to use Kubernetes labels in the spec itself, so we have to decouple the code that is doing discovery from that one which is generating the output. And stuff here like um, because there is also this project ArtSpec, right, where you have static databases and so on, and they are doing basically uh, executing some assembly code because there is this project CPU ID that is basically doing the magic. And yeah, I thought that some part of that project we can definitely take, at least for the validation of the host, not for the image selection for sure. And there are some instructions executed against CPU to get some additional content and so on. Most of the time it works fine, but there are some cases where CPU doesn't give you all the information about features and so on, at least from this what I saw so far. But yeah, it looks promising anyway. And I think everything what is in the CPU, sorry, in the source directory can be used. Like most of them, maybe, and we would have to adjust a little bit that as well because if you do discovery of PCI, there are some filters, internal filters, like device class, whitelist, and label fields, and so on. So I thought if we have some proposals merge or something like that, that assumes we are going to use this project, I thought to have a talk with NFD community and find a common ground where we can contribute. Maybe we can extract the common part for the discovery, work on this together or so. But yeah, looks promising anyway.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. If we start, I mean, if we, or the other way around, if we have this labels or this information that are in line with what Kubernetes knows because of NFD, I think that would be cool as well, right? So that that we have the same information no matter what environment we are in, whether we are in Kubernetes or without a Kubernetes scheduler with something else. Yeah, but I think we all agree. I just wanted to, I just popped when I saw Eduardo talking about it, and I figured like we should look into how to reuse this, because if NVIDIA creates a container for this or a tool that we should use as well, right? But yeah, just so that we are aware of it.
Yeah.
I'm kind of looking at this from the different direction. Instead of how can we use their stuff to generate whatever we want to for the image compatibility, I'm looking at this from how can we generate our image compatibility details in a way that's easily mapped to the output of the NFT data so that they can reuse our compatibility data for node selection easily.
Yeah, it would be cool if it's interchangeable, right? And that we can push information back and forth. Yeah.
But in that case, because this is very Kubernetes specific, to do that, we would have to generate a specification that is aligned with Kubernetes world.
That's why I use the word mapped.
Okay.
Because I feel like we could do something that could easily be a one-to-one mapping, maybe just switch a namespace on something and suddenly it all just works. Ideally.
I would like to interject that we'd also have to make it feature-proof, or at least as feature-proof as possible, because our friends Kubernetes lands are just going to change their formats too.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm looking from that from a little bit different angle than Brandon, because I want to that our spec or our tool can use the discovery tool, and we have information on our side, like you execute everything what is in there, from the plugin point of view. Like for example, you execute CPU plugin that is using this source code to discover what is in there and adjust the format out of the plugins to our needs that we are not aligned with Kubernetes. And for example, if in the future some Kubernetes projects wants to use our compatibility spec, they have to transform data from our own spec to Kubernetes world, and it's also for different environments as well.
But
If it's
When you talk about using it to output the data, are you looking at this at build time, at runtime? Where in the pipeline are you thinking that you want to run the tool?
at runtime, like for example, if you are going,
Wouldn't that be after the NFT has already done its thing, though? So NFT has already decided you're a node that could run this image, and so we're going to deploy it down to you.
Yeah, I mean, depends if how you look on that. Like, because for example, first you have Kubernetes so running a node feature discovery there. You have already annotated nodes, right? And if you build a compatibility specification, you define your specification your own. I mean, it was gonna be very clear if I present with my proposal.
Are you suggesting that we replace the node feature discovery with, instead of them calling their tool, they call our tool?
Kind of, yes, because node feature discovery is only this is exactly what I'm suggesting, because they are using just to label the nodes, and we are using this to validate if it's compatible or not. And we are not one. I don't want to rely on some labels on the node if they are exist to match or not. I just want to have a check at runtime. Like for example, I execute my tool, I check what kind of CPU is used there, and I get immediate information if it's valid or not. I don't want to rely on the labeling of the nodes because labels are prone to failure. I mean, if somebody changes or something like that, I want to have immutable source of information, which is coming from the plugin itself.
But isn't I mean, if our specification can be flattened into labels, which I think would be a good idea anyways, right? So that you can just say, give me all the information about this image with a label, like with key value. Then if we match it with how the NFT labels are structured, we can transform it back and forth, right? And I think we should also reuse our image compatibility for the scheduler. So if the scheduler knows from the NFD what the hosts are about, and stuff like the CPU core count and the CPU manufacturer is not going to change, right? So, I mean that you only need to run maybe once when the host is up, and then there's stuff that may be changed, like syscontrol flags or whatever. But there's a lot of static stuff, right? So I think.
But the thing is, I wouldn't like to keep in the compatibility spec any information regarding any specific scheduler, if it's Kubernetes or not. If you, for example, wants to provide some software like scheduler plugins in Kubernetes and use our compatibility spec, my point of view is you have to consume what we give you and transform to Kubernetes, not to keep some Kubernetes labels in the spec or try to match them that they align, because I want to have a universal format that can be later adjusted by external tools.
As someone who does the scheduling, I'd like to second having the info for the schedulers, but I don't want anything in the schedulers to be involved with this. I just need something that's well formatted that we can process to make scheduling decisions and to know if a container can drop on a node safely.
Yeah. So that's basically the goal, at least from my point of view, that you don't put any specifics, scheduler specifics into the specification itself. You just give a well formatted data structure, or whatever, for the scheduler that it can consume it and process to its own needs. That's the goal, if it makes sense.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. But I mean, our JSON, like the JSON block we discussed 2 weeks ago, can be flattened out into key labels, into labels, right? And if we have this in mind, that I mean, what sched MD sees and what Kubernetes sees and how it's discovered things. Is if this are all the same, if they see the same information and they have a common understanding, I think that would be beneficial, right? So we should not, as was in this in the last section, the security thing that we, or the one before, that we don't that we overlap with and reuse stuff that's already used. Yeah, Brandon.
The place you're going to get in trouble when you're flattening the JSON is arrays. Any JSON day is an array is got to start numbering fields or something like that to flatten that array.
I would just like to say that I don't want a one-off or anything like that. I mean, if Kubernetes and Slurm can have the same output, that is my preference. I much rather have this to be as uniform as possible.
Well, then we will see about different proposals and the final decisions once we review that. What's gonna be next?
Although it might just turn out to be, we use tool X and it provides formatted output Y, and Kubernetes and anything else can read that. That's fine as long as we have a standard way to go about it.
Yeah,
exactly. I think that's
I mean, the actual in format, I'm not too worried about because I expect it to change dramatically as we figure out what we are missing.
right.
Do we want to add a use case to integrate with NFT and similar scheduling tools?
Sure, we can.
Oh yeah.
That would be, it's a tool writer.
I was looking through either tool writer, maybe deployment engineer, something like that.
How to get out of this?
If you type, I'll figure out the underscore or the strike through.
Okay. But I don't duplicate the content or the functionality. Something like that. Does it make sense?
I would say both don't duplicate, but also integrate. Because I think there's a value to integrate with those tools.
If you think that should be a little bit different, then you can feel free to reword.
I think it's good enough for us.
Okay. Then I guess if there are no other comments, we can talk about proposals deadline. I put that topic into the agenda because I thought to keep 2 weeks deadline for new proposals to come. That we don't have endless proposals coming or something like that. I mean, at least for the initial state. What do you think about this idea?
Sorry, I was adding a
No worries.
hyperlink to the thing. What was the question again?
Yeah, I just wanted to have a 2 weeks deadline for proposals, at least the initial proposals, that we don't wait like for nothing, basically. So that people get motivated to write their own stuff, put their thoughts, and after period of those 2 weeks, we can just get to serious discussions about proposals and so on.
No strong objection, though I don't know that we may go through some of the proposals and then find that we just want to add more as we go. I think in terms of next steps, we probably want to take our document, excluding all the strike through entries, convert that into a PR to the Git repo of here are all the use cases that we want to solve. And then for the proposals that we have, start going through all the use cases we captured and apply those to each of the proposals, or apply the proposal to each of the different use cases.
Okay.
And so that would be
Mhm.
a section of the proposal saying, here's my proposal, here's what I want to do, and here is how I solve or don't solve, because there may be things we don't solve, each of the different use cases we've identified in this one proposal, and then do that for each proposal.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
Yeah, sounds cool. That's good.
That's why I've been holding off on taking mine out of draft, because I was waiting for all the use cases to get up there so I can do this part.
Cool. So anybody else has any topic? Okay, so I guess that's all. So that was fast, and finally we are through the use cases. Okay, guys. So then I wish you to have a good evening and morning, depends on your time zone. So talk to you the next week.
Talk
Let's
next week.
before breaking real quick, who do we want to assign the name of the person that's going to make that GitHub PR?
Okay, I can take it.
You're going to take them. Awesome.
Awesome. Thanks, Martin.
No problem. They pay me for that, especially for that project. So
That's good. Good to hear.
Awesome.
Coolio.
All right.
Have a nice
Okay.
week.
Thanks
Bye-bye.
all. Have a
bye
great
bye.
one.